Which black t-shirt is best? Like, I mean, these are the cheapest black t-shirts on Amazon. Which one's best? And the winner is... Go to the link tree, and then you see it right there as a link. It's the best black t-shirts, Gideon versus Hanes versus Fruit of the Loom, if you want to know which one I recommend. Yeah, I mean, we're wearing them unwashed. We're going to analyze them unwashed. What does the unwashed black t-shirt have in it? First things first, rank by fit. I think I could like the Gildan fit best. Alright, we got the tubes and we're throwing in Viore into the mix, the high end. And we got a blank, of course. Good scientists. Alright, we got the millicube flowing, 18.2 mega ohm water. Anyone who's questioning if the water's clean, this is as clean as it gets. I think we're going to go up to about, I don't know, that's probably too much. Let's do 30 mils per tube. And so we're just going to go ahead and fill up all the tubes here with the same amount of this millicube water. Alright, Gildan up first. We're going to just take the shirt, spin it up, and put it into the tube. Alright, so you can see, shaking it up, it's clearly going to absorb into the material. Alright, so the next part of the process, after really shaking it up for about a minute, is we're going to kind of like squeegee it out as you can see, squeegeeing the water out and then, you know, we lost some water. Got about 15 mils left. And so we're going to go ahead and do this for all the shirts. So this is what blank water looks like. I don't know if we've got anything in there, but we'll find out. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and repeat this for the Hanes, the Fruit Loom, and the Viore shirt. And then we'll have them all. Yeah, I think it looks a little darker. I think it definitely looks darker. Okay. We did something. Technique works. Fruit of the Loom. It's cool. Fruit of the Loom looks kind of dark too. Just a different, slightly different dark than the Gildan. Cool. Alright, we got the Hanes. The Hanes is weird. It absorbs water differently. It's almost like hydrophobic. And it's the only shirt that has a tag. So, anyways, Hanes is in the tube. Alright, so Hanes, again, has a little bit of a dark color compared to the Controls. Different color than the Fruit of the Loom and the Gildan. It also has like way more foam. I'm assuming some sort of detergent or something. And then again, you can see it's got a little bit more liquid. Same approach, so slightly more hydrophobic. Alright, and the last one on the list, I mean, all those other shirts are like $2-3 a piece. This is a Viore shirt. This is this is an $88 shirt. And it's definitely like a sportswear, and it's a polo. But anyways, same approach on the Viore. Alright, the Viore's got a huge tag. We have to even cut that off before wearing it. And it's starting to absorb. It was a little hydrophobic in the beginning, but now it's starting to absorb the water. Again, this is a completely different material. It's definitely like some sort of like polyester or something like that, but it's definitely like a sports athletic material. So Viore, it is kind of like not it is completely different than all the others, but I might as well do it. Alright, so the Viore is foamy and frothy, a little bit like the Hanes, but unlike all the other shirts, it does not have any color leaching. It looks basically as clear as the Control. Pretty good. All right, and there we are. You can see that there is color in all of them. And so we got all the samples. So now we're going to centrifuge these out and run them on that Q-top over there. See, we're not doing much in this step. We're just taking 1 mil, my pipetteman here, and then transferring it from the water directly with no dilution into an Eppendorf tube. Easy breezy. So now we've labeled each of those tubes. You know, this is a trick, scientist trick. Make sure that the letter you use before you put them in the centrifuge, you know, use a different letter. I made that mistake before. So somebody was going to spin these out. Oh, so you got to spin 5 tubes. That's hard to figure out the balance. Oh, we got that tube balance list. I didn't do it right. So what's that? That's 15,000 RPM. Feels balanced enough. And I'm gonna go 5 minutes. All right, we're gonna go low volume plastic tube. It's because they're the cheapest. All right, so I'm gonna go 200 microliters per tube. You know, these are insert tubes. They only hold about 200 microliters. And we're gonna go ahead and pull from the top of the tube, so you don't get any fibers or anything like that. We'll go ahead and add these into each tube here. And kind of see like there is a color still on most of the cheap shirts. So that's good. That means we're gonna actually get to analyze it. The Viori's still clear. And our blank is of course clear. Alright, we're going to go put these on the Q-Toff. We're only doing like a 5 microliter injection, so I don't even need that much. Alright, pre-slit caps only, cap 2. Alright, t-shirt samples on Zevo Q-Toff. You know this big boy, untargeted, metabolomics. Easy breezy. Here you go, you can see the set here, you can see it's on the hexylphenol, you can see that it is the 15-minute positive mode method. Alright, first glance, you can see the blank is pretty blank. 6e to the 6, couple things out there at the end. Those are just phthalates I can never get off my system. But then you can see most of the stuff is later in all the shirts. So we have a lot of non-polar, kind of hydrophobic stuff that we've extracted. See all the signal, the most intense signal is actually in the Viori shirt. You see that 4e to the 7. But everyone's kind of in that same range. So then we have this kind of big blob out here. That's only really looking like it's in the Viori shirt. Maybe it's kind of carrying over through all the other samples. Maybe I dirtied it up. We ran the Viori first. But the interesting thing is, let's look at the more polar stuff. Since we've extracted with water, the early stuff. And you can see, if we look early, and we look at the signal, the Viori is much, much cleaner, much lower. These are all up in the almost 1e to the 6. This is a 2e to the 5, where it's pretty close to baseline. You can see a bunch of these little blips. All these little blips typically are polymers, short chain polyethylene glycol, propylene glycol polymers that are being separated out by the column. And then you're seeing like these blobs that don't have that repetitive pattern. At 185, that's like an actual molecule. 171, that's an actual molecule. So even with actual molecules, the Viori is actually much cleaner than the others. So except for the blob at the end, we look at this blob at the end, and it is an odd looking blob. I don't know what it is, but it's in there, and I don't know what it is. But other than that blob, the Viori shirt's quite clean in the polar region, and that's kind of what we were seeing from the extract anyways. So we're going to go ahead and just compare the 3 cheap shirts for the rest of this. Alright, so comparing just the inexpensive shirts from Amazon, you can see that we have a difference in signal in this early region. And we have this really big kind of peak that's similar in all of them. So if we look really early, you can see that the Gildan does have some of the lowest numbers, and it doesn't include this 185 mass. We'll try to identify that. But it doesn't seem to have it. It does seem to have a 171 mass set that the other two don't have. So it's slightly different. And then it's got this 305 mass. Again, we're going to try to identify these things, but we may not be able to. I don't have a great database for these types of stuff. And then if we look later, out here, let's say, if we look later out maybe here, you can see that we have like the spiky polymer pattern, and then we have a unique molecule that's kind of coming out right here that's only in the Gildan, maybe a little bit in the Fruit of the Loom, but not in the Hanes. Alright? And then out here in the most nonpolar region, we got this kind of maybe a blob, and then some other moderately large things. I don't know what that is, but that looks very large, like a large polymeric blob of some sort. And that's just in the Hanes. We got another large polymeric blob. You can see that polymer pattern more clearly in the Fruit of Loom. And then we look at the Gildan, we see it as well. And so kind of they all have that large polymer blob. That's probably some sort of, my guess is it's like just part of the manufacturing process. And nobody's gonna get rid of it. But if we're looking at it based on intensity, the Hanes shirt does look like it's the lowest. The last thing is that we got this big mass super non-polar out at the very end. And this is coming out at 570. Again, it's a big polymer blob. And if we're gonna look at intensities on this one, it looks like the Hanes shirt is again kind of the lowest on intensity, but it's tough. It's a tough call. So all the stuff late are different kind of polymer additives that are probably used in manufacturing. All right, so the interesting things to identify. We have this mass at 185 that we're gonna try to figure out what it is. It looks like 185. And we have this one at 171. We're gonna try to figure out what it is. And then I was talking about there's a mass that's kind of hidden in here at 213 that we're gonna try to figure out what it is. And then those are kind of the most curious of the things, in my opinion. So maybe we can figure these out. Let's give it a try. So if we look at the EIC for the 185 mass, you can see that we're E to the 6 in both the Hanes and the Fruit of Loom, but there's almost none in the Gildan. So 185 is just in everything but the Gildan. The 171 mass, that doublet, really strange, is mainly in the Gildan, teeny bit, maybe carry over in the Fruit of the Loom, none in the Hanes, nothing. The last mystery mass, the 213 mass, another kind of weird doublet, is really intense. In the Gildan, it's still in the Fruit of the Loom for sure, not as intense, basically not even in the Hanes. So there you go. Let's try to figure out what these are. All right, throw it through HMDB first, see if we can find anything. It's kind of a lot of error. I mean, this is not the best database for this type of thing. I'm not seeing anything that kind of makes any sense. For the first one, maybe this makes a little bit of sense. We can search that. See if that comes up with anything. Don't know. Nothing really definitive here. Again, not anything great. Maybe this acetyl cyclohexyl acetate is not a bad hit. It's like a flavoring compound though, so I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe this decanoic acid makes sense. We just don't really know. And then again, not really. So HMDB is not really doing it. So now we're going to try out Cerno software, basically clipping the mass and then using S-clips to try to get a model on the formula. And then we're going to go with the lowest error formula here. That's a lot of nitrogens though. That's for the 171. Here's, again, still a pretty, not a ton of error, but that's maybe a more rational formula. And then 71, and then 213, that actually really almost no error. That's a lot of nitrogens again though. Alright, so sent the formulas through ChatGPT. I mean, this is the best I can really do. So it's saying that it's this triazine used in t-shirts as a cross-linker and a fixative and a formaldehyde scavenger. And so that's this C6H9 mass. Which one does that correspond to? That's the that's that 213 mass. So that's the largest of the masses. Then we go down to this one. This is the C4 answer, and so that's the 171 mass. It's thinking this is this thing called magna. This is a guanine. This is another highly cationic scavenger and dye fixative, so maybe. And then finally, this one I'm least confident in. This is the 185 mass. Really not finding anything on what these things are. I think this is some sort of like, you know, fixative, fragrance, oxidant, hydrogen peroxide thing. I doubt that's true, but anyways, don't really, I mean, this is the best answer I got. If anyone has any ideas, things I should search, those are the masses. Trying to figure out what they are. Back at it. All right, DCM liquid extract, all the t-shirt water extracts, head into the GCMS. We're gonna go ahead and crimp cap it into GC vials this time. It's on the centrifuge. All right, off the centrifuge. Should be a really good split. I mean, the Viore is clear, so we don't know if the black color goes to the top or the bottom. Let's see, this is the Gildan. I think the color stays in the aqueous phase. So I don't know what we're going to find in the bottom layer, but we'll look at it on GC, let you know. Alright, so this may be hard to see, but I want to show, okay, let's look at the Viore. You can see the interface. You see that little like layer sitting in between the two layers. It's a pretty good sized interface in the Viore. And then we go to the Gildan. You can see there's almost no interface. So that's really cool. That means nothing's kind of precipitating out the interface. So I like that one. And then if we go to the Fruit of the Loom, you can see we have an interface and it's almost cloudy. You don't see there's like a cloudiness in the interface layer. And that, you know, so it's just evaluating the interface. And then the Hanes, you can see that one's just as clean as the Gildan as far as there's like no interface, perfectly clean split. So that was just like an interesting observation. Alright, so pulled the 200 microliters of the bottom layer of each, put them into 800 microliters of clean DCM. We're going to go crimp cap these tubes. Alright, crimper. Alright, you can see, all crimped, labeled, ready to go to the instrument. A little swirl. There we go. The DCM extracts onto GC and we've run them. We got the Gildan on top, the Fruit of the Loom in the middle, and the Hanes on the bottom. A lot of this stuff, if you look at the blank, a lot of this stuff right there is all from the background. Just because you're extracting water, you see a bunch of other stuff. But we do have, in the Gildan specifically, like a cluster of peaks, which we can identify. Send these to NIST. It is this ether. This is dipropylene glycol monomethyl ether called DPGME, or aerosol DPM. And then this looks like could be a solvent. So I guess they're like using this solvent to dye or do something with the fabric and then not removing it all, just in the Gildan. So dang it, I really like the Gildan, and now I don't like it. All right, so then we're looking at the Fruit of the Loom, and it's really clean. Not seeing any residual solvents. In the Hanes, I am seeing this blob here that isn't in the control or anything like that, and that looks like it could be another solvent. In through NIST, yup, this is a butoxy ethanol. Search that guy. And this is another higher boiling point, odorless solvent for paints and coatings and cleaners. So definitely could be used, and there's some residual there. So, I mean, if you're gonna be wearing these t-shirts and not even washing them, I'm thinking the Hanes And the Gildan they got a little bit of residual solvent, so maybe we're going to have to go for the Fruit of Loom.